What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Shaping Your New Start Education Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything education. I'm your host, Dr. Phil 2, and I'm so glad that you've decided to join us here. Listen, we just want to add value to our educators out there. We want to add value to our students. We want to make an impact to our parents. We want to make sure that this podcast goes out there. So listen, if you're joining in, join us. Come on over YouTube, Shaping Your New Start, and subscribe to our channel, Shaping Your New Start, and subscribe to our channel. And listen, I got a special guest today, very powerful guest, and I can't wait to introduce her. But before we do that, we want to hear a word from our sponsors. Everybody, we want to make sure that you go out and download the book, 6 Ways to Shape Your New Start. 6 Ways to Shape Your New Start, a guide for educators and students. Guess what, everybody? It is a free download. It's a free download. So all you have to do, go to drphil2.com/ebook. It's yours for free. Listen, we're trying to free some people because some of y'all are not starting. You're not shaping your new start because you've got a lot going on in your head and you haven't even begun to see what you can do through your purpose. So listen, go and get this book. This will help you jumpstart your purpose. And of course, we are promoting We Need More Clouds, a book by Lynette Wesley. You want to make sure it's a book about blended families. So all you have to do is go to weneedmoreclouds.com. weneedmoreclouds.com. Make sure you get this book, everybody, and read it to your class. Listen, I've taken this book all over to different schools. We've read to the kids. It's a book about blended families, and I'm sure that there's a lot of children dealing with this issue here. And guess what? We're going to introduce the speaker today. But guess what? We're going to promote Make Fear Your Superpower. Make Fear Your Superpower. Listen, by Dr. Tameka Ellington. Listen, you don't want to miss this. You want to make sure you get this book. So we're going to check this out in a minute. So everybody, we want you to subscribe. We want you to share this video out. We want you to like this video. We want you to make sure that you add impact to the people that you are working with. Send it to your teachers. Send it to your principals. Let's get this started. This is the Shaping Your New Start Education Podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? Listen, this is the Shaping Your New Start Education Podcast. I'm so excited to introduce to you. Listen, she has superpowers too, okay? And she is doing it all over the place. She is a motivational speaker, an author. Listen, TED Talk, okay? The list goes on of the things she is accomplishing in her life. She has also reset her life. She's experienced a new start. And so I want to introduce to you, everybody, Dr. Tameka Ellington. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Dr. Phil? Nice to see you again.
Great to see you again. And it was a powerful experience we had in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
And we're excited to just have you on this program and talk about you. Listen, I want to talk about you for a minute
Okay.
about your experience. How in the world did you get into education? Like, where did this journey for you begin?
This journey began out of a journey that I would have never guessed would have ever happened because I never thought that I would have been an educator. When people go to school to be an educator, oftentimes they know that that's what the end goal is. Well, I didn't start off that way. I actually started off my career as a fashion designer. And so I went to school and got a degree in fashion design from Kent State University. Went and worked in the fashion industry as a designer for several years. And while I was working uh, in the industry, I just realized that I'm doing what I was trained to do. I was happy with my job. I was having fun with my job, but I just didn't feel like I was adding anything to the universe. I
Wow.
didn't feel like there was anything that I can say was a legacy for me. Just the fact that I made clothes was just, that was not good enough for me. I needed to have something else. And so God started pressing me toward the idea of possibly teaching. And so when I went to Michigan State for my master's, I had an opportunity as a graduate student to teach a class, and I really enjoyed it. And I was thinking, well, maybe I might teach. And I started hearing chatter from my other friends that were still in the fashion
Okay.
industry. Uh-oh. Oh no.
Okay, all right. That was all me. That was all me. We're good to go. We're
Okay,
good to
good.
go. All right. Yeah, go
Good.
ahead.
Yeah. I was saying that I had gone to Michigan State and had the opportunity to teach, and I really liked teaching, but I didn't know that that was my calling. I hadn't gotten that aha that teaching was really my calling. And so, and plus two, I had my friends in my ear, my friends who were still working in the fashion industry. And most people don't know, but the fashion industry is a very lucrative career. And when you work in the industry and you're good at what you do, you can make a lot of money. And so I started telling my friends, well, maybe, I might want to teach. And my friends are in my ear, like, girl, you're going to be broke. Teachers don't make no money. And, won't you stay here? And, most people in the fashion industry, if they've been in there long enough, they easily, make several six figures. And so I actually took a pay cut when I left my job as a fashion designer to start teaching at Kent State University. And I just knew from being in the classroom and being able to be with those students that I was feeling something that I didn't feel before while I was working in the industry. I was feeling like I was actually adding something, to the universe. And so that's how I got into teaching. And I had been working at Kent State for about 15 years, and I absolutely loved it. And it was absolutely the best job that I ever had. And um, my story is quite unique in that I'm actually the very first Black professor ever at the School of Fashion at Kent State University. And so that came with a lot of honor, but then that also came with a lot of struggles as well. Yeah, yeah. But my journey as an educator has, and I consider myself, I think once you're an educator, you're always an educator.
That's right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you broke some barriers, and
yeah,
breaking those barriers, that comes with a price.
yeah.
That comes with, who does she think she is?
Oh, yes.
Right? And
Yeah,
guess what? In order to accomplish the impossible, you have to have that, who do they think they are? Right?
absolutely.
You have to have that grit. And so in that, you really made fear your superpower.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. That's actually how the book came about. Once I had the opportunity to be in a space where I was the only one. And when I got my job, I ended up having to file an affirmative action case against the fashion school. And that's how I got my full time job, because I had previously applied for a position and kept getting denied. I got denied on 3 different occasions
Mm,
from a job at Kent State. And finally, when I filed that affirmative action complaint, they magically gave me a job.
yep.
And that came with a price on my head, because my colleagues had already had their preconceived notions about who they thought I was. And that left me with a lot of imposter syndrome, while I was going through that. But eventually, once I just allowed God to begin to speak to me, to let me know that I was supposed to be there and I was meant to be the first Black professor there, He sent me there for a reason. Once I was able to, absorb all of that good energy from our Creator, and my creativity started flowing, and things just started happening, and I began, to become one of the top researchers in the department. And so much so that I got promoted to assistant dean before I left. And so when I stepped away from the university, I was serving as assistant dean, which was amazing, because the people that originally didn't want me in the department, now I'm actually the assistant dean, and I'm giving them orders.
Come on.
So yes, so
Come
so
on.
God will show you in front of your enemies, right?
Let me tell you something. I mean, when the word says he'll place you at the table in the
Yes,
presence of your enemies,
absolutely.
it happens, and all you need to do is get that opportunity,
Yep.
and make it happen. What do you want to say to the people who don't think that they're worthy of that type of success, who
Oh,
think that
wow.
that position is not for them, and they'll never get that position? What do you want to say to them?
Well, you know what? The something that I had to understand about myself. I grew up in the inner city of Cleveland, grew up poor, to a single mother. My mother had me when she was 16. She was 17 when she had my brother, 21 when she had my sister. We didn't have a lot, and most of the people around me were not striving for excellence. People were just trying to survive. And I knew from a very young age that I did not want that kind of a life. And so I knew, and I couldn't put it into words, exactly what that feeling was like. But um, eventually I realized that I had this unbelievable power of deserving.
Mm,
I knew I deserved a better life.
come
And
on.
because I'm a child of God, I can have any kind of life I want to have, regardless of how I started, you know? And so for those individuals that don't believe that they deserve it, first off, if you don't, then check your work ethic. Is your work ethic up to par? Are you doing what you're supposed to do? Are you exceeding what you're supposed to be doing? Because if you're exceeding it, then you deserve it. You deserve anything that you go after, as long as you're doing it from a place of excellence. I'm a person that always strives for excellence. So if you're doing it from a place of excellence, you can have anything you want to have.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So, in all of this, you found your purpose, you found the direction that you wanted to go in. But now, all of a sudden, you get all of these accolades, you get all of these positions, and you said, ha, you know what? I'm going to leave. I'm going to
Yeah.
resign, and I'm stepping away from full-time work as it is. And now I'm going into a new direction. What happened here?
It's funny because lots of people, in many people's eyes, I was living like the dream life, right? I'm a PhD educator working as assistant dean. I had several people, you know, really, not really envious, but like really like looking up to me, thinking that, okay, this woman has it all, right? And in my spirit, I knew that it wasn't the end.
Mm.
I knew that God had something else for me, that becoming assistant dean was just the step to the next thing that God wanted me to do. And because I was able to survive my experience at Kent State, I knew that I could. Uh-oh, Dr. Phil, are you frozen again? Oh no, you're good. Okay. You look like you were frozen again.
Hey, listen, I'm frozen in listening to the
Oh,
story.
okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. But I just wanted to make sure. But what was what was interesting in that, I knew that my life was going to look different than what it ever could have looked. And I've been one who's always tried to work towards breaking down my family's generational curse of poverty.
Come on.
I took a step in that, becoming quote unquote middle class, right? Um, but I knew that there was something else, and God kept. I'm telling you, this whole entrepreneurial thing has been on my spirit for a very long time. But the reason why I didn't do it, Dr. Phil, is because I was too afraid. I didn't have any family members who were entrepreneurs. So I'm not only was I the first person in my family to go to college, so I'm a first generation college graduate. I'm
Wow.
the first person, first Black professor ever in the School of Fashion. And
Come
now
on.
I'm the first entrepreneur ever in my family.
Come on. Trailblazing.
Yes. And so I was too afraid. And the book, Make Fear Your Superpower, really just breaks down all of those fears that I had and how I was able to just finally just surrender, because that's what I had to do, Dr. Phil. I had to surrender to the calling because God kept calling me to become a speaker. Um, but I didn't realize that I had the tenacity. I didn't think that I had what it took to do it. And then two, I was so comfortable, in the space that I was. I had worked very hard to get where I was. I was comfortable. I was making six figures already, and I just had to make a choice. And when I made that choice to surrender to what it was God was calling me to do, everything else, no matter what it was, whatever distraction or thing that was trying to hold me back in that space where I was, had to go. It had to go. And unfortunately, one of those things that had to go was my marriage.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, my ex-husband was not excited about the idea of me becoming an entrepreneur. He wanted me to stay in academia because, it was safe. I was making a good living, but because God was calling me, I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no. And, he had been waiting long enough. God had been waiting long enough. And so it was time
Wow.
for me to step into what it was he was asking me to do.
So, you go through this phase, and now at home you're adjusting. Now you're making that adjustment into entrepreneurship. Now, what
Yeah.
what happens a lot of times when people say I'm going into entrepreneurship, people see struggling, like the
Mhm.
struggling artist, right? All I want to do is play music, and all they see is that struggling artist. And even me coming up through school, I studied communication, and I was like, so where do I go from there? I went in another path, but I realized that we're always experiencing fears of others.
Yes.
They put their fears. It's like parents; they'll put their fears on their kids. All you need is that 9 to 5. You're working for
Yeah.
those benefits. You need to get
Yeah.
benefits. Now, what I tell people, I like, listen, leverage that 9 to 5. Get that 9 to 5, leverage that, but go for what you really want.
Hmm.
You can start working anywhere, but you have to keep going for what you want. And that's what you did. You
Yeah.
decided, hey, you know what? Nothing's going to stop me now. I'm going for what I want. And that's powerful. That's powerful. And
It's interesting. People tell me all the time how courageous I
mhm.
I was. And in my mind, I honestly don't look at it as courage. It was just looking at it as, and just having an understanding that I finally just surrendered.
Yeah.
I just finally surrendered.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it didn't really take courage. It just took me saying, okay, this is what you want me to do. I need to just go ahead and do this.
Do
I
you,
didn't have a choice. I didn't feel like I had a choice.
do you feel like the cost, like yeah, you're making six figures, but you realize there's a cost for me not going for what I want. Like, okay,
Absolutely.
there's this plateau, but if I don't go for what I want, I'll never get to the next plateau. I'll never get to the next
Absolutely.
level.
Absolutely. And see, I did not want to go to my grave with any regrets. I wanted to be able to live, to be able to say that I lived the life that I wanted to live,
And
and I did not want to have any regrets.
so how do you feel about it now? How are things working out right now?
One of the things that has been amazing is the fact that I wake up every morning in joy, knowing that I'm going after the purpose that God placed in my life. Um, I don't have the stress of dealing with the university bureaucracy. All places, no matter what kind of place of employment there is, I mean, there's going to be some bureaucracy. And so I don't have to deal with that. Unfortunately, Kent State University is a PWI and it's ran as such, predominantly white institution. For those of you that don't know PWI,
That's right.
but and there's a lot of stress that comes with working in those spaces. All the microaggressions you have to deal with on a daily basis. All
Yeah.
the, there's just so much. And after I left, and that strain, that, and I can just
Wait.
feel it just thinking about it, like that stress
Mm,
on my shoulders. Like I wake up every morning, I'm like, okay, here I am, God, let's get going.
wow.
Let's get going.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Now, we had talked about the subject of student access.
yeah.
Um, Tell us what student access, when we hear the term student access, what is that about and how important is it?
Student access is extremely important. Basically, it just means that all students, no matter where they come from, no matter what their race, economic status is, everyone will be able to have the equal right to get education, equitable right, I mean, to get some education. And the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because programs such as TRIO programs, um, and they're all about student access. Those programs, I would not be who I am today without those programs. I was a TRIO Upward Bound student, and they allowed me to see life beyond my block, life beyond the inner city neighborhood that I lived in, and allowing students to have access to education. It just gives them the opportunity to really just express themselves. It gives them, and education, student access is not just in the classroom. Student access is very, very broad. It can deal with student reproductive health. It can deal with, I just had someone on last week on my podcast talking about physical activity and how important it is for students. Um, it can deal with things such as, of course, discrimination. Right, when we think of access, we think of discrimination. In many instances, it
Like
can
your
deal.
job situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So it can definitely deal with that. But student access, it's just particularly for underrepresented students, the opportunity for them to have an equitable education. That's what it's all about, regardless of what that might look like. Student access might be if a student so happened to have special needs and maybe they needed to have a desk that was hired so that their wheelchair could fit underneath, the school being able to accommodate that student, that is a version of student access, right? So that the student can be able to have the equitable option, or equitable chance, I mean, to be able to get an education. So it's lots of different avenues that contribute to students being able to get educated. So
Yeah, because sometimes students may not know what scholarships are available to them.
yeah,
They may not know what services are
yeah,
available to them. And every school, every educator has that responsibility to offer that, to make sure they have access to everything that they're capable of getting. So I think that's a powerful concept.
Yes, yeah. Thank
Now,
you.
now how can we ensure that student access is promoted and is given? How can we make sure of that?
We can't do it without our teachers. We definitely need our teachers. We need people who are not afraid to speak up for what is needed. One
Mm,
of the things, like if you are someone and you are an advocate for student access and you don't speak up, then you're not helping. You need to be somebody who's passionate about student access and also somebody who's not afraid to speak up and talk about the needs of the students.
come on, come on.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely.
So,
And
educators, you have the power. You have more power than you know.
that's right. That's right. And you know what? You won't know what that is unless you're building a relationship,
Yeah,
unless you're really intentional in your classroom. Then
absolutely.
and that's when you really understand that and start to move towards that. All
Absolutely.
right. Yeah.
Another thing that just came to my mind, Dr. Phil, is thinking about how teachers can go into the classroom and just any bias they have
Yeah.
about students, leave the bias at the door. Because if you come into the classroom, and I know it's difficult, to come in because our biases are who we are, but if you can do your best as a teacher to love your students so much that you can put your biases outside the door,
Wow.
then student access is going to be something that's just it's going to be natural to you. You're going to want everyone to be able to have the opportunity for equitable education.
Wow. Erase uh being biased. Okay.
Absolutely.
I see my camera froze. I don't know why.
That's okay.
Yeah, and that's powerful right there. And that's why we have to, go in and do bias training.
Yes.
And that's why you have that, and being able to instruct and teach teachers, especially in, let's say, predominantly white neighborhoods where black kids are attending,
Yeah.
there has to be some bias training,
Oh, absolutely.
and so now I hear the term DEI really becoming more of a theme in education: diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we're seeing that theme being spoken of more often. So when we are able to get past that bias, and guess what? As black folk, we got our bias too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We got stereotypes in our head too that we have to work through from day to day. But at the end of the day, it's all about ensuring the student gets the best opportunities as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
How else can we ensure that students get access?
How else? Um, I think one of the things that's important, and when I think about student access, I also think about curriculum.
Yeah.
Um, being a part of, being an educator at a PWI university, there was always a lot of talk about how to decolonize the curriculum. So that is something that is across the board. All educational systems need to decolonize their curriculum systems,
Hmm.
and it's difficult because now we've had this whole thing come up with critical race theory in schools, which is we could talk forever
Oh, yeah,
about that, right?
absolutely.
But it's important that the curriculum is not just about one people, but it's about all of us and how we all contributed and really and truly what our history is about. And I'll say this, and then I'll quiet about the curriculum, right? So I have two children, Dr. Phil. I have a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old.
And
And
happy Mother's Day.
thank
We
you.
missed it, but happy Mother's Day.
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you. And my boys, I had brought home some pictures because I had a speaking engagement at Oberlin College. Oberlin College is it's in a small little town of Oberlin in Ohio. And Oberlin is a little city that took part in the Underground Railroad. So they have a lot of monuments in that little town. And so
Yes.
while I was there, I was taking photos and I brought the photos back to my children. And I said, look, boys, mommy was excited. I got a chance to see parts, of monuments for the Underground Railroad. And the boys just kind of looked at me like, spaced out, like the Underground Railroad, like, what is that? So my 13-year-old, I asked him, I was like, so you don't know what the Underground Railroad is? And he was like, no. He was like, Mommy, what is that? Some kind of a train? And I was like, oh my word. Okay. So I planned a trip to Washington, D.C. to
Yes.
take my boys so that they could go to the African American Museum so that they can learn about their history.
That's right.
Because their history, unfortunately, they're missing pieces and parts. They're not telling the whole story. And unfortunately, it's up to parents to have to fill that in. And when we have parents that are not so focused on education, our students miss out. They miss out.
That is serious.
Yes, it is serious.
You know,
Absolutely.
history is very important. And when you start hearing your kids saying, "Who's that?" or "What's that?" that's when you know, okay, here it goes.
Hmm.
And I remember right off the bat, hey, we're gonna get some books. Who is Harriet Tubman?
Yeah.
Who is Frederick Douglass? All right, we're gonna go to basics. We're gonna take them to the African American Museum because I want you to see your history. My daughter read about Thomas Jefferson. She didn't want to hear nothing about him after that.
Wow.
It was like, what? Oh, he owned slaves? What? He did this? Oh no. She did not want to hear anything about Thomas Jefferson. So, it's really exposing them to that history. We cross these bridges of these great men, and then you read the history behind them. You need to know the history. And then you go back into Native American history,
Oh, yeah.
combined with Black history.
Oh, yeah.
Um, if you go to the Native American Museum in DC, you'll also see a lot of Black history right
Really?
in there. Absolutely. And
Wow.
my family were part of the Choctaw
Yeah.
tribe. And, I'm sure we have some other connections, but, it's all about understanding that curriculum, that history. In fact, the show, The Neighborhood, they just talked about critical race theory on,
Mm.
on the show. They just addressed it, and it was a powerful lesson because if we don't give students access to history, how will they understand what we're going through today? How will they bring the change that we need to experience today? And
Mm.
so, I think you're on to something right there. Everybody, listen, I got this book right in my hand because I bought the book. All right, everybody, I bought the book. Make Fear Your Superpower, Dr. Tameka Ellington. You want to make sure you get this book. All right. All you have to do, check this out, everybody. Make sure you go visit her, drtamekaellington.com. All right. Make sure you go visit her. You can get the book. Can you get it from your website?
You can get it on Amazon.
On Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So follow her, Dr. Tameka Ellington, on Instagram. You're on Twitter as well.
Yes, I am.
Okay, follow
Yeah.
on Twitter,
Yes.
everybody. So you want to make sure that you support this book because it's powerful. I started to read it already, and I was presenting to another company to their employees, and I said, "Hey, listen, you got to check out what she said in this book here."
Mm.
Right. So it's powerful book right here.
Thank
Make
you.
Fear Your Superpower. So make sure you get that on Amazon today. Make sure you get that on Amazon today. Dr. Tameka, you are also a motivational speaker.
Yes.
So you can go to her website if you are looking for a speaker for your schools, for your company. She will come in and bring the power. Bring the
Yes.
power. Have you get over your fears. And I'm talking to
Yes.
people all
Yes.
the time. I'm talking to people all the time that they have a fear for moving forward.
Yeah.
There is a fear for moving forward. but you can make fear your superpower. So we
Absolutely.
want to make sure that you support this book, support Dr. Tameka Ellington, and invite her to speak, because you're going to get a powerful, powerful word. Thank you so much for being a part of the Shaping a New Start Education podcast. It's always exciting talking to you. I mean, we
Yes.
could just go on for
Yes.
hours just talking about the different issues of education, different issues in our society. How can we improve it? How can we make the impact? So, thank you so much for being on this program.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. It was a pleasure to see you again.
Yes, yes, indeed. Everybody, listen, I want you to go to my Instagram, Dr. Phil 2, Dr. Phil underscore 2. Follow me on Instagram or Twitter. Check out our website. You're looking also for a speaker there. Check out my website and get this. I want to make sure I encourage somebody. Don't quit. Do it. Don't
Mhm.
quit. Do it. You can get McGuire Wear. Go to McGuireENT.com. McGuire Wear. Get your Don't Quit t-shirts or a hoodie. We want to inspire somebody today, because somebody right now feels like quitting, and
Mm,
we want to inspire somebody to keep going. We want to inspire somebody to look back and say, listen, if we can make it, so can you. If
mm.
we can make it, so can you. And that's why I want you to get this book, this ebook, 6 Ways to Shape Your New Start. And I want to let you know, listen, there is a way to start again. And we encourage you to start again. So thank you, Dr. Tameka. And listen, we pray success over your life. And we're looking forward to hearing you and seeing you in the next journey, in the next phase, in the next plateau, in the next level. Oh, you went muted for a second.
Uh-oh. Sorry about that. I said thank you, Dr. Phil. Have a good night.
All right. Take care, everybody. Make sure you follow us, Shaping Your New Start Education Podcast, everything and anything education.